Wenn sich Obama vor dem Internationalen Strafgerichtshof verantworten müsste, sollte er dafür bestraft werden, dass er eine der extremsten Terrorkampagnen der Welt organisiert hat. Al-Qaida ist schon übel genug, doch sein Staatsterror ist noch viel schlimmer. Schauen Sie sich die Magna Carta an. Vor rund 800 Jahren legte sie das Grundprinzip Amerikas fest, die Unschuldsvermutung. Eine Person darf nicht ohne einen fairen Prozess von der Regierung bestraft werden. Unter Bush und dann Obama wurde dieses Konzept einfach ausradiert. Egal ob beim Einsatz von Drohnen oder beim Mord an Osama bin Laden, die USA ermorden Verdächtige, die der Magna Carta zufolge vor ein ordentliches Gericht gebracht werden müssten. In den USA werden Menschen ohne Gerichtsurteile in Guantanamo oder in anderen Gefängnissen festgehalten. Damit verletzt der Präsident Prinzipien, die es bereits seit 800 Jahren gibt. Das Überwachungsprogramm PRISM hat eine lange Tradition. Versetzen Sie sich 100 Jahre zurück, als die USA die Philippinen eingenommen haben. Es war ein brutaler Krieg. Hunderttausende wurden getötet. Nachdem der Widerstand im Keim erstickt wurde, installierten die USA ein hochentwickeltes System der Kontrolle, das auf dem neuesten Stand war, um zu überwachen, zu infiltrieren und zu manipulieren. Nach nur wenigen Jahren wurde die Technologie auch auf amerikanischem Boden von Woodrow Wilson, einem liberalen Präsidenten, eingesetzt. Regierungen machen das einfach. Sie sind Systeme der Macht. Sie machen Gebrauch von verfügbaren Technologien. Wir sollten versuchen, das zu verhindern. Aber überrascht sollten wir darüber nicht sein.
There's no reason we should be opposed to it, try to block it, but you can't be surprised by it.
Obama ist verantwortlich für diese Terrorkampagnen. Zuallererst muss mal deutlich gesagt werden, dass das Terrorkampagnen sind. Da sollten wir uns nichts vormachen. Das Drohnenprogramm ist eine groß angelegte internationale Terrorkampagne. Obama und seine Berater halten jeden Dienstag den sogenannten Terrordienstag ab. Dienstagmorgen entscheiden der Präsident und seine Berater darüber, wer getötet werden soll. Oder nehmen Sie die Terroristenliste. Wenn jemand auf dieser Liste landet, kann die Regierung alles mit ihm machen, was sie will. Töten, unbegrenzt inhaftieren, ganz egal. Das ist eine exekutive Macht, von der man nicht möchte, dass ein Staat sie besitzt. Die Rechtfertigungen dafür sind interessant, sie werden einfach so akzeptiert. Und genau das ist das Schlimmste daran. Hören Sie Obama zu oder lesen Sie Thomas Friedman von der New York Times. Um das Land gegen Terror zu schützen, brauchen wir Kontrolle und Überwachung, so die Argumentation. Wenn wir eine freie Presse hätten, dann wären die Zeitungen voll mit Schlagzeilen, die sagen, dass das wohl ein schlechter Witz ist. Und die Obama-Administration uns nicht schützt, sondern Terrorismus schürt. Die höchsten politischen Kreise wissen, dass die terroristischen Drohneneinsätze Terrorismus schüren. Zwei Tage nach dem Anschlag beim Boston-Marathon gab es einen Drohnenangriff auf ein Dorf im Jemen. Ein Amerikaner, der aus diesem Dorf kommt, berichtete vor dem Senat, was in seinem Dorf passiert ist. Seit Jahren hatten dort Dschihadisten versucht, die Bevölkerung gegen die USA aufzuwiegeln. Doch damit hatten sie kein Glück. da sie bislang nur Positives über die USA von ihrem Dorfmitglied gehört hatten. Doch mit nur einem Drohnenangriff hat Obama nun die gesamte Dorfbevölkerung in potenzielle Terroristen verwandelt.
Obama turned the whole village into potential terrorists.
Let's go change the world. Thank you, everybody.
Damals wurden rhetorische Illusionen erzeugt. Und es waren auch einfach nur Illusionen. Wahlen in den USA werden von der Public Relations Industrie geführt. Das sind dieselben Leute, die im Fernsehen für Zahnpasta Werbung machen. Sie erschaffen Illusionen. Direkt nach der Wahl von Obama im Jahr 2008 hatte die PR-Industrie ihr jährliches Treffen. Jedes Jahr vergeben sie einen Preis für die beste Marketingkampagne. Hier haben sie Obama verliehen. Er hat damit sogar Apple geschlagen.
They gave it to Obama. He beat out Apple Computer. When the Arab Spring began, it was, I think, correctly perceived as an extension of this to the Middle East. Well, it's kind of on hold at the moment, but I think it'll break out again. What's happening in Turkey today is another example of it. The defenders of Taksim Square are protecting the last part of the commons, the public space in Istanbul, from a wrecking ball. The wrecking ball is the neoliberal wrecking ball. Commercialization, gentrification, authoritarianism, and they're protecting it, and the state is using violent means to repress it. The indignados in Spain, or the demonstrators in Greece, same thing. Occupy movement started in New York, very quickly spread over the world, is another form of resistance to these policies. Basically, they're resistance to the neoliberal programs, which have many aspects to them. And it's a worldwide struggle in different forms and different places. The policies are different in different countries. And it's an attempt to gain some degree of democratic control. There was effective rhetorical illusions created, and they were illusions. Elections in the United States are, elsewhere too, but mostly the United States, are run by the public relations industry, the same people who advertise toothpaste on television, and they're creating illusions, and they know it. So right after the 2008 election, the advertising industry had its annual convention, and each year they give an award for the best marketing campaign of the year. They gave it to Obama. He beat out Apple Computer. Of course, they're giving it to themselves because they create the illusions, and it's a very short transition from commercial advertising to political advertising. They're both based on the same principle. The principle is to create an uninformed citizenry that will make irrational decisions. So if you go back 800 years to Magna Carta, its core principle of the Charter of Liberties is presumption of innocence. A person cannot be harmed by the government, punished by the government, without a fair trial before a jury of peers, quick, fair trial before a jury of peers. Now, of course, Magna Carta was quite limited. It didn't apply to all people. It applied to free men, what they called free men, small category. Now, that's carried over to the U.S. Constitution, 4th and 5th and 6th Amendments, but again, limited. So, for example, it didn't apply to Native Americans, obviously, or to slaves, or didn't even apply to women who were not considered full persons. Over the years, it's been extended, so by not enough, but it's broadened. Now it's being restricted. So under Bush and now Obama, the concept is being eliminated. So take, for example, drone strikes or the killing of Osama bin Laden. They're killing suspects. People who are under Magna Carta have to be apprehended, brought to trial, fair and speedy trial. People are under detention not just in Guantanamo, under detention in the United States without trial. That's a violation of principles that go back 800 years. If a person is on the terrorist list, the government's terrorist list, the government can do anything to them, anything, kill them and detain them, whatever. What's the terrorist list? It's an executive decision without judicial review, without recourse for the person who's on it. Lists like that shouldn't exist. We shouldn't permit them. That's a kind of executive authority that you do not want the state to have. And it's quite interesting to look at the justifications that are given, which are accepted. That's the worst part. So what's the justification? Listen to Obama, read Thomas Friedman in the New York Times. The justification is we have to have surveillance to protect the country against terror. I mean, if we had anything like a free press, there would be headlines saying, this is a joke. The Obama administration is consciously creating terrorists. It's known at the highest level that the drone strikes, which are first of all a terrorist weapon, are generating terrorists. Take, say, the Boston Marathon bombing a couple of months ago. 2 days after the bombing, there was a drone strike in Yemen. Usually we don't hear about these things, but this one happened to be made public because there was a young man in the United States from the village that was attacked, and he actually testified before the Senate. And he described what happened. He said that in his remote village, jihadis had been attempting for years to turn the population against the United States. They had failed because the only thing they knew about the United States was what he wrote to them, and he liked the United States, so they had a favorable opinion. He said with one drone strike, Obama turned the whole village into potential terrorists. Every drone strike does that. A drone is a terror weapon. Yes, of course, Obama is responsible, in fact, for the terror camp. First of all, they are terror campaigns. We should not delude ourselves or others about that. The drone global assassination campaign is a terrorist operation, a huge international terrorist operation. And we'd understand that if somebody was doing it against us. But we're doing it against them, so we don't consider it. But that's what it is. And yes, the person responsible ultimately is the president. In fact, he happily takes responsibility. He explains that he authorizes each strike, carefully decides to. They have what they call Terror Tuesday. On Tuesday morning, the president is his national security advisor, according to their own description. Meet and decide who's going to be killed today. That's an international terror campaign. Of course, the people carrying out are responsible. There's institutional structure behind it. And those who perpetrate it should be held accountable. This is the least of it. If Obama were brought to the International Criminal Court, he should be charged for, among other things, with organizing the world's most extreme international terrorist campaign. I mean, Al-Qaeda is bad enough, but they don't come close to international terrorist campaigns like this. It's probable, we don't know, that rendition is still continuing. There's evidence to that effect, but it hasn't been investigated. If it is, it should be charged with that. And so should the countries that participated. I don't recall whether Germany participated. I think it did, but a number of European countries did participate in rendition, meaning sending suspects to countries ruled by brutal dictators in which you're guaranteed that they'll be tortured. That's also outlawed by Magna Carta, incidentally, 800 years ago. But many European countries participated in this, many others. The United States, of course, initiated it. These are major criminal charges. Aggression is a major criminal charge, the most serious, in fact, of all, supreme international crime. And you can go on. Detention without trial should not be tolerated.